Voila.
Voila.
You on?
Yep.
All right, perfect, boss. I'll let you take it away. Who are you? What do you do? And all the above.
Cool. Sweet, mate. Wow, where do I start? Cool. So I'm Kelsey Rigler. I'm a coach at CrossFit Trailblazer. I'm also, I guess, an owner of a training company called Virtuous Approach, where we do online programming, training, and also just one-on-one individual program design for people who are looking to get better in the fitness space, whether that be powerlifting, weightlifting, CrossFit, bodybuilding, what have you. So got a big program there that I end up running. Trailblazer as a coach and a CrossFit coach, go out, work through there. I also help out with all the affiliate programming that we have in-house as well too. I've got, I wear multiple hats, I should say, but yeah, more so strength and conditioning coach is like the best way to kind of label it. I like to think that I'm more than just a coach as well too. I think sometimes we put labels on ourselves, but I like to think of myself as a thought provoker or a leader in this space, or aspiring leader in this space is what I should say, as I don't know if it's fair to label yourself as a leader, if that's something that other people have to label. And just a deep thinker, all around guy who wants to help people try and find their potential and explore what that actually looks like, and also take responsibility for finding their potential. So that's kind of me wrapped up in a nutshell. That's what I do, man.
That's heavy, man. Like you touched on like a really heavy sort of thing straight away of taking other people's potential on yourself and putting that weight on your shoulders. Like how do you balance all those hats that you like to put on yourself?
That's a good question. I guess I need to like peel it back then. So for me, it's all about like the relentless pursuit of progress, right? And it comes back to, I think that there are a lot of people. So how do I balance the hats, man? I don't want to dodge around this question. I balance all the hats essentially by just taking that responsibility myself, right? So I look at responsibility as this thing that a lot of individuals, and it's all right, but a lot of people in like dodge, and a lot of people are out there. So whether it's, if you're looking at like the likes of Jocko Willink talking about extreme ownership and taking responsibility for that, whether you're looking at people like Brene Brown and what she puts out when she's talking about leadership, or another person in the space that I really look to and have learned a lot. I've learned a lot from two people. I've learned from Darren Ellis about what it means to be a leader in this space. So Darren's up at CrossFit New Zealand. He's one that I did my internship with. And I've also learned from Logan Gelbrick out of the States as well too. And basically how I balance it all is I take responsibility for absolutely everything. So whether that's in life or in other people's lives, I just take responsibility for it. It's part of, like, I'm pretty sure I've seen you post that you've read Brene's work as well too, with Dare to Lead, and part of that is like having that courage to take that responsibility. And for me, when it comes to balancing the hats, I don't know if I have it balanced just yet, but I also, there you are, mate. Yeah,
there it is.
Bookshelf too. So it's one of those things that I just find I'm still figuring out what balance of that looks like, but I, as myself, am just collectively enrolled in trying to find out, first as myself, like, what's my potential? Who am I becoming? Secondly, just that idea of taking responsibility for every single person's life, whether it be my own or their life, that I have the opportunity to touch. And that's how I end up balancing it. And it's part of that thing of taking that ownership. Like, I'll use the gym as an example. If we go into the gym, and from a coaching process, if I'm coaching you, it's taking responsibility. Even though I know that I can't control the outcome that happens to you, it's still taking responsibility for that. It's still seeing if you're missing a clean today. Like, let's say you build up on your 6th set, you miss a clean, and I come up and I give you a cue, and on the 7th set, if that cue doesn't work with you, I still take responsibility for myself, because I know that, like, even though it sounds wrong, I've come up short because I haven't given you the tool that you need to be able to express yourself, to move that barbell. Now, sometimes, like you and I both know, people are punching too heavy and they're going to miss. no matter what cue you do. Give them, it won't work. But I find, it's that responsibility factor. It's like that taking that actual responsibility for every single person, for my life and for where I'm going, because I think too many of us are just not doing that. Too many of us are just chalking up and saying, you know what, I'm happy with where I've got to in life. This is good. I'm happy with where I'm at. Whereas to me, man, it's all about growth, right? Like I think that a lot of people are playing it just too fucking small in life and not going after what they actually want to because they're afraid to. So if I can take the responsibility in myself and show that I'm doing so with myself, I guess I hope that leads over in my actions to other individuals as well too. So I hope that kind of answered the question. It's a long way.
That makes perfect sense, man. But like, where do you think that came from? Where do you think that is? That like a deep innate thing that's always been inside of you? Has that been like a parent, or has that just been like a failure along the road that's kind of punched you in your face and been like, all right, Kels, I got to do something? Or
yeah. So it comes from a lot. It comes from it comes from a lot of life. So I'm gonna I guess I better unload a lot of like what's happened in my life, so then it makes sense. So I grew up in a family where my dad, I absolutely love my dad. He's like my biggest role model that I look up to in life, because he always was challenging me to figure out what can I do more of, what can I do better, what does this look like, what is the next step, how can you make sure that no matter what is happening in life, you are doing what the fuck you want to do. So my dad, he was a mechanic, and he still is a mechanic, and then he also works as a manager of a shop. And he is I've seen him take businesses that were about to burn down and turn them completely around into multi-million-dollar organizations just from the work that he's done with them. And in that time, he was always challenging me. So when I was younger, I was going to be a mechanic, and he was like, no, you don't need to be a mechanic. You need to be something better than that. So I ended up I did go down the mechanic route, but then he was even the one who pushed me into getting into the field. He was like, no, you work out all the time, you do all this, go get a degree or something, right? But before all this happened, the biggest thing that changed for me innately or characteristically within myself was at 17 years old, I pretty much had a moment where I woke up one day. So I've been walking around. I do come from a morbidly obese family, and I just had that moment where I made this direct connection. I remember we were sitting there. It was a grad meeting. So it was a whole bunch of students and their parents. And I was sitting around, looking around the room, and I was like, okay, cool. I love my family, but I saw my parents, and then I saw myself, and then I saw other kids, and then I saw their parents. And I just made this correlation, and I don't know why, but I made this correlation where I was like, shit, all the skinny kids in this room have skinny parents. All the overweight kids in this room have overweight parents. I'm 17 years old, and that morning I'd actually hopped on the scale at home, and I was 155 kilos. And I was just like, man, I'm gonna fucking die if I keep doing this. And that was just that light bulb moment for me. And that night as we were driving home, my mom was like, everything all right? You were real quiet tonight. You're usually real talkative, contributing a lot of things to the meetings and discussions. What's going on? I was like, I'm starting to diet tomorrow. And we come from a blue collar family as well too in my family. So my parents did absolutely everything to get by and help us out, and they did a phenomenal job of it growing up. But my mom was like, listen, we got to wait till the next paycheck before we can afford to get you food so that you can go on the diet. And I was like, oh, that's all good. And I just said to her, I was like, well, the way I see it is I've gotten this big, if I have to starve for a couple of days, I'm not going to fucking die. I got all this extra fat floating around. My body will be fine. I had no idea what I was talking about, but that was just my 17-year-old brain. And after that, I just made this commitment to lose weight. So I changed my diet, had no fucking clue what I was doing. Pretty much ended up starving myself in the long run. But over 6 months, I got down to, it was 100 kilos is what I got down to. And then, and just had this change, and then got into bodybuilding, got into powerlifting a bit, went through powerlifting. And then, so this is where the biggest change came was I got into a relationship. It was for all things saying, just not a good relationship. And when we broke up. I had been like, during that time I got diagnosed with depression, and I'd been on medication. And the funny thing about medication is, like, they don't tell you when you have depression that the medication can actually make it worse. They just say, go pop this, here you go. And I'm getting progressively more and more depressed. Now, in my head, I was like, oh, I'm just getting depressed just because my relationship isn't healthy and there's all these other things. And I'd been putting on heaps of weight. So I got back up to like 130 kilos at that point in time. And basically one night, after we broke up, I ended up going home, getting super drunk. Was absolutely miserable. Popped a whole bunch of pills. Was still kind of going on, just getting more and more drunk, so to speak. And I went downstairs at my parents' house. So, like, back in Canada, it's super, super popular to have basements. So I went down. Growing up, grew up hunting heaps and heaps, and pretty much grabbed one of the guns out of our gun case and loaded it and put it in my mouth and pulled the trigger. And for some reason, whether it be, if you're religious, whether it be God, whether it be life just looking out for you, in my drunken stupor, I'd left the safety on. So I had pretty much, gone this path, was pretty much hell-bent on blowing my brains out that night. And after that happened, I just sat there and cried like 2 hours, because it was kind of that realization that I just tried to do this thing, that I let my life get to this point. I was absolutely miserable. I was selfish. I wasn't thinking about my family. All I was thinking about was how depressed I was, how awful I felt, how terrible things were at that point in time. And I just didn't want to live anymore. And that was like the brunt effect of it. And as I was sitting there, like, drunk as fuck, don't know how many pills I had in my body, everything else going on, I just was like, man, like, something's got to change. Like, if this is what life is, if this is what life has brought you to right now, here in this moment, something has to change. And I walked into the gym the next day and was working out and was just like doing some basic bro stuff. And like, one of my friends came over and was, hey man, how are you doing? Was just like talking to me and stuff. And I just like broke down crying in the gym and said like what had happened. And he was just like, man, like, that's deep, like, that's heavy, that's crazy. And he was like, well, like, what are you gonna do? Like, you need to get some help. And at that point in time, I didn't really want to get any help, so I just turned to the gym and like threw myself into the gym. I ended up setting a goal to compete in bodybuilding, so I hadn't competed yet at that point in time, and just started that process of competing. And anyone who's competed in bodybuilding knows, like, the discipline that you need to do that is next level. And and I ended up, through that process and through that time, just picking up a lot of habits and putting a lot of habits in place. And after kind of everything happened here, like, I kept going, and it was just a snowball effect, and things started getting better. And then about 2 years later, I like was in university, everything was going great. Saw one of my mates one night, like, we were going out, having a real great time. Had saw my mate, we were talking, he gave me a hug that night, and he was like, man, like, we haven't seen each other for a couple months. Like, why don't we go out for a coffee the next morning? Like, fuck yeah, bro, that sounds great. And I went to pick him up the next morning, and he had shot himself. And it was one of those things where, like, you just never expect it. Like, you never ever expect to see that from anyone at all in the world. And he had shot himself. And it was one of those things where it was just like, you can't prep yourself for that at all. And it was like, again, like that, for me, like that reminder again, like, at that point in time, I changed a lot of my characteristics. I changed a lot of my habits. But for me personally, like, again, it was like that smack in the face to just be like, no, like, no matter what happens in life, like, you need to keep moving forward. You need to keep doing these things. But then it was also the reminder that, like, and this is where the responsibility part started kicking in a lot for me, was that, like, it's also my responsibility to share my story and share that this has happened, because there are too many people out there in this world that are going through thinking that, like, they don't have any other chance or any other opportunity. And I don't know what it looks like for those people, but I also know what it's like to come out the backside of it and just be like, man, like, life is good. Like life really isn't that bad. There's things that you can work for and work towards. And maybe what it is for some of these people is finding something else that allows them to pursue, kind of like we talked about and looping around to the start, even their true potential. And I think that sometimes for people, like it's a big guess, it's a big long statement, but it's like this idea that sometimes people just, not the idea, but like being complacent is what actually ends up killing them. Being complacent leads to depression. Being complacent leads to all these other things, and it's a cascading effect. And like, I know for everyone it's different. I also know that depression, like I know how it works. But at the same time, like I just think so many of us, like, we're afraid to speak up and be ourselves, and sometimes that just beats ourselves down into this position. Like we're so afraid, societally speaking, to like stand up and be heard. You have people who aren't afraid to stand up and be heard, which that's great. But there are a lot of people who are afraid to, because while we're so small, while the role that we play collectively in the universe is so small, we just forget to realize how actually fucking powerful we are and how much we can influence the people around us. And that to me is like one of the fucking greatest things. So
100%, man.
Yeah. So like it's that accumulation of things. It's the accumulation of having a real strong support crew, like my family, like my mom and my dad and my sister, always just pushing me to be better. And then my wife, Danny, as well, too, like having her to push me always to be better, and things like that have helped. But it's also those life experiences along the way that gave me that innate drive. And as far as I'm concerned, like, especially now in life, like this is only the brink of it, right? Like this is only the tip. I'm 30 years old and I haven't even lived ideally, hopefully, at least a third of my life yet. So we've got a long way to go and a lot of growth to happen. So it's just one of those things where, to me, I guess it's just the moment you stop growing is like the moment you stop dying or start dying in life, right? And to me, I just, within myself and with others, can't stand by and passively let people be complacent with their life, because to me, that just seems like a waste for them and a waste for myself. So, yeah.
Well, none of us are born to die, right?
Exactly.
Like, there was an advert in the UK that I had, maybe when I was a kid, so quite a while ago, where it was just like basically about kids in Africa, and it right at the end it said no one was born to die, and fuck me, it like punched you in the throat, because it was just like, that's so true. And it's like, fuck me, man, like that's heavy, but also I guarantee you about 99% of the people will be able to relate, simply because there's either one instant or several loads of instances that sort of combine together, where it's like life has picked a brick up and punched you in the face with it, and you're just like, right, what are you going to do now? Like, are you going to go again and pull the trigger and then that's bon voyage, or are you just going to, all right, well, I now have a blank canvas to be able to create my foundation from, and I can build a foundation on the rock, not on the sand, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And literally, I mean, you'll see it, people walking those shutters for the first time, right? Or even thinking about walking the shutters, and then they've caught you on the street or in a coffee shop or messaged you or whatever, and it'd be like, hey, I want to start working out, whatever. You know, it's for mental reasons.
Yeah.
They'll say it's for the physical.
Yeah. But it's
true.
Yeah.
It's fucking all up here. Like, at the end of the day, no one really gives a shit what you look like.
Exactly.
Sorry, go on.
No, I 100% agree. It's all the mental, like through and through.
Hell yeah. And it's like, not literally 99%, I would say, of people that go to the gym do it for their mental health.
Yeah.
Especially from like people from Canada, you get no sunlight. From the north of England, you get no sunlight.
Right.
Like, it's always raining, it's cold, it's miserable. It's like, what do? You get those endorphins, that serotonin, and you survive another day. It sounds really morbid, but it's true. And that's, we just kind of, our anchor is fitness, right? That physical pain. And a lot of people end up shifting that psychological pain down to the physical pain, because it gets it out of their head. Like, it's an itch you can't scratch in your head.
Yep.
But when it's, with a barbell or running or swimming or Zumba or whatever, like it's like you can scratch it, and you can get satisfied with those endorphins, with that serotonin.
Yeah.
And then that's really heavy. Do you in a better place now?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Way better place now. Like that's the thing, right? Like it's one of those things, and like obviously you go through ebbs and flows, right? Like I think for a lot of people, it's like seasons in your life, right? Like sometimes you go through peaks and valleys, and I've also learned through this all that like depression, it looks different for every single person, just like anxiety looks different for every single person. And like something too that I found, it's weird, but like helped me get through a lot of it. And I think I've seen you post some of it too, like some of the works of it too, is like things like stoicism, right? Like if you're looking at things like what like Ryan Holiday posts, Marcus Aurelius, things like that, like people always ask me about that. And one of the books, like I read heaps, and one of the books that for me, the first time I read it, it spoke to me, and like every page, it was like it punched me in the face as I was reading. It was The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. And there's so many valuable nuggets and insights in that book, because he just lays it out. And it's that idea, essentially, like you said, it's like someone picks up that brick and tries to smash the glass in on your house. Like, what are you going to do about it? You're going to get up, and you can either be like, oh fuck, someone did this to me, or you can get up and you can move forward, right? And he talks essentially about like that the obstacle becomes the way, right? Like whatever gets in your road in life, whatever is the thing that is challenging you, if I had to summarize it, like that's the thing that you need to do. That's the thing that you need to go after and that you need to go through. So many of us, we have adversity strike and we're like, oh fuck it, I'm out. Like I can't do this anymore. I can't do this. And that's like, can't is a word that I despise. And so many people just say, I can't. Like, stop saying that. Or if you're going to say you can't, throw a yet in after that, because the moment that you say you can't, you just send a signal to your body that it's not going to happen. And the book for me, it was super valuable. So he's got a series of like 4 books. He has the Daily Stoic, which I actually have like right beside me. It's just
there you go,
meditations that some people that he puts up, and it's like things about perseverance, living well, justice, injustice, like all of these different things. And it's a really good read. It's 1 page a day that you can go through for the whole year. He's got The Obstacle is the Way, Ego is the Enemy, which is fantastic. It's, again, punches you in the face about like it's everything ego related. So it really humbles you and makes you take a look at like your own ego as an individual. And then he has Stillness is the Key, which I haven't read yet, but it's on my to read list because I've heard it's quite good. So, but yeah, like through this art of stoicism and like looking into it, like I'm by no means a stoic yet, and I don't know if I ever will be, but I've learned so many. I just find tools that like just help you look at life. And the biggest thing that I've learned from it all is it's all about perception, right? Like what we perceive, like that's our reality. And you and I be in the exact same room, looking around that room, and I guarantee you're going to have a different perception of what's happening in that room than what I'm having. And that ultimately is shaping our reality. And I find that, I just find perception is like such a massive thing. And so many of us, I think sometimes we just get into our habit or into our loops that we constantly have, and we don't challenge our perceptions. We just see it as it is, and we're like, okay, that's how it is, rather than like stopping and taking a moment to actually reframe things. Like the amount of times that you hear people say something like, this is unfair, like it's unfair that this is happening to me, rather than taking a minute, having that full stop, and just be like, instead of saying this is unfair, why don't you flip it and say this is a test, right? And when you flip it and you say this is a test, all of a sudden it takes away that victim mentality, and it allows you to again take that ownership and responsibility and move forward with what's happening in life. So I think like things like that help. And it's like always challenging your perception, challenging what you know, challenging your biases. That are the things that are going to keep your sword sharp, so to say, and keep you moving forward. So,
there's always something to learn, right? There's you either win or you learn, but you can also learn from your wins. And something that I remember a conversation distinctly, like my memory's shite, but I'll remember this till the day I die, is like quite a few years ago, I was having a conversation with my brother, and like both of us were in a really, really fucking shit place upstairs. And anyway, like he took a different spin on things and was like, actually, we're in a better position. And I was like, why? Like, we're clearly in a fucking shithole here. Like, what's going on? He was like, well, we actually see the world in another dimension as other people. Like, everyone just sort of goes by and does this daily life, believes everything they say, never asks those questions, never thinks about anything outside the box. And it's like, because we were in this shit place, we can now think outside the box.
Yep.
And now, if you pull yourself out of that shit place, or someone pulls you out of that, or you get out of it, you progress through it, like, you now have the ability to be like, and sit back and think about all these things.
Yep.
So again, that goes back to the mindset on it, right? And
Yep.
instead of thinking, okay, I'm in this shit place, the world's trying to hate me and trying to get rid of me, it's like, I can now see things from another perception.
Yeah, for sure.
And that helps everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
That helps everything. Like, you will look back on it like something that, especially when I first moved over here, and even maybe about 6 to 12 months before I came over, I got a book given to me for like a leaving present.
Yeah.
And just like a notebook, and I do gratitude.
Yep.
Just write down 3 things, and then every morning, you know what I mean? And that is now something I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
And it's funny because something that might have been your darkest hour becomes like your greatest light.
Yeah.
And that's something that will always stoke your fire and keep you going forward. So I don't know, I guess what we're saying is, even though you might be in your darkest hour now, just fucking stay true. Never end the good fight.
Yep. Exactly. Like,
Because you'll end up using it.
hell yeah. Oh yeah. And that's the biggest thing. Like, it's like, never let your fire burn out, no matter how small it is, no matter how tiny it is. Fuck, even if it's down to a spark, it's that idea, like, just do your best, keep that spark going, because it will, like, it'll fan into a flame, and then you will have points, just like a normal fire. You'll have points where you have this massive, glowing, bright ass fire, and then the next, like, maybe a week, maybe a month, maybe a year later, all of a sudden that fire's gone down, it shrunk a little bit, and you'll find, like, you'll go through these peaks and these valleys, and sometimes it might even come down to the coals, where then you got to just restoke that fire a little bit again, add some wood, show it some love, spend some time on you, reflect, do your gratitudes, and do all these other things, and then the next thing you know, it's back up, it's burning again, and you can continue going. So
Fuck yeah, man. And everyone's got a journey, right? Like, everyone might idolize whatever, whether it's on Instagram, a book, a movie, or fucking whatever. Everyone idolizes that, but they idolize the result, and they don't idolize the process. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's like, no, you want the result. You don't want the work that it took to get there.
Yeah.
Elon Musk, for example, like, he fucking slept on the couch with his brother. Like, obviously, like, Les Brown. Do you know Les Brown?
Yeah.
Fucking one of my favorite speakers, man.
Yeah.
Like, what is it? Eligible mentally retarded, he was labeled.
Yeah.
And he was one of the greatest speakers of all time, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Like,
Oh yeah. Through and through.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
And you bring that down back to the people. The people are what make things work.
Oh yeah.
It's not politicians, it's not fucking legislation, it's not money, it's not anything. It's the people day to day, man. It's the people that scrub the toilets, and they're the ones that, like, the blue collar.
Yeah.
They're the ones that make it work. And if everyone just gives you shit about the person to the left and right, the world becomes a beautiful place, and everyone can learn. You know what I mean? But everyone's just sort of in their own bubble, and they think they know everything, and it goes back to that ego. Like, ego is the enemy. I'm really interested to read those books. It
Yeah.
takes me a while though.
Oh yeah. That's all right though.
I'm not the greatest reader.
Oh mate. Yeah.
I'd actually 2 years ago, I'd read 4 books in my life.
Yeah.
Like, it took me. Well, here's a good example. To be fair, like, it took me a seriously long time to be able to read. Like, it just did not come naturally. I couldn't spell anything. Like, every word I wrote down was like the wrong spelling. I'm not dyslexic or anything.
Yeah.
Obviously, no qualms if you are dyslexic, dyspraxic, or anything like that. But no, it just does not come naturally to me. And I remember I was the captain of my football team when I was 11, right? And then I'd have to do a match report and fucking stand up in assembly and say it and whatnot. And then I'd have to hand in my match report for it to go on the website. And I'd have to have a meeting every lunchtime on every week. because I'd have to basically interpret what I wrote down.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't spell for shit. Anyway, like I gave myself, I tried to create a habit, and it is now stuck again. I did fall off the bandwagon. What, moving on the other side of the world, just throw your habits out the window.
Yeah.
But I have to read 4 pages every morning.
Yeah.
And fuck me, man. Like, I read 12 books in a year, maybe a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And like the stuff I've learned from books, man, is literally incredible. Like, my favorite one is, I'm looking to me right, like I've got my little bookshelf, is Talk Like TED.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Again, that's talking does not come naturally. I'm massively an introvert. I'd like to just sit in the corner, do my own thing, and no one even looks at me, and that's me happy. You know what I mean?
I get
Fuck, that's a good one. What other one? What am I looking here? I'm reading Winners and How They Succeed by Alistair Campbell.
Yep.
That's really interesting. I love To This Dare to Lead by Brené Brown.
Yeah. I rate all of her work. I think her work is just phenomenal. If you'd like Dare to Lead, I'd say Daring Greatly. Read that one.
Yes, I've got it somewhere.
You've got it? Okay, cool.
Yes, somewhere.
Daring Greatly changed my whole entire life. Like absolutely changed my life without a doubt in my mind. But yeah, like I totally agree. Reading, man, and like I was pretty similar. Like I hit this point, like when I was really young, I loved reading, but then I got to that point where like reading's for losers and reading's for geeks and nerds, and I stopped doing that until I got older. And yeah, now I have a bookshelf. Well, I have a bookshelf back home in Canada that I want to still somehow get shipped over here, and then I have another bookshelf here where it's like I just have books on books on books, and people are always, man, what can I get you for a present? I'm like, just get me a book or get me like a gift card. I like reading a book is where I'm at. And yeah, it's real cool, like hearing how you say, like, even from introverted tendencies. So like through and through, I'm an introvert. Like absolutely would be completely content sitting in the corner of a room watching everything unfold. It takes me a long time. Like it's interesting that I'm a coach, but it takes me a while to warm up to people as well, because I'll like just have my moments where I'm like, okay, yeah, cool, yeah, hi, how are you, and like things like that. Whereas like coaching, you know what it's like. You got to put the hat on. You got to be bigger than you normally are and be more out there, be that extroverted tendencies. But one of the things, and like this was recently coming from reading a book that changed my whole entire view on what it meant to be an introvert. It was recommended to me from Darren because like he had even mentioned when I was doing my internship with him that he was an introvert. It's called Quiet by Susan Cain, and it's basically it's looking at all of the powers that you have as an introvert, because we do live in an extroverted world, and it's very, very easy to go out there and think, oh, because I'm introverted, I don't bring as much value to the world. And it's very, very easy to think, oh, because I'm like this quiet, calm, collected, this thinker, this observer, that that doesn't vibe with the world. Yet after reading the book, it showed me for myself how to channel my introverted tendencies to deliver more in an extroverted sense, but also it showed me how to recharge. It showed me all of these other things and really allowed me to go out there and just leverage my strengths essentially. So it was a book that reading, completely changed my mind on what it meant to, actually be an introvert in an extroverted world and how to function and bring a lot to the table with that. Because like I went through so much of people being like, mate, like you're always so quiet. Why don't you talk more? Man, like, why don't you, like, I know I have a real bad, like, guy version of resting bitch face where, like, I can just not smile at all. And people are like, aren't you happy? I'm like, I'm fucking thrilled. Like, life is great right now. I just don't be like, what's up, guys? Like, crazy all the time. Like, that's just, I don't know. That's never really been my vibe. So I don't do that heaps. But it's like one of those things where, like, I got so much of that. So even myself, like, I was incredibly harsh on myself. And, like basically what brought it out was we were doing a SWOT analysis, and in that weaknesses part, I actually wrote down like my weaknesses. I'm an introvert and I'm quiet and all of these different things. And every person in the room when we were going through this, They're like, oh, bro, like we need to sit down and discuss this because being an introvert isn't a weakness. Like it's a strength. Here you go. Like this is what you need to read. And when I read it, yeah, it was another one that just changed my life. That one, the other one I'm sure that you've heard of that's like super popular too is Mindset by Carol Dweck. That one
Fuck.
also.
That's
Yeah.
what I was going to say, man. That book was the one that sparked the flame for me to start reading. And also that did change my life. Like I was at uni, if you believe it or not, for like less than 3 months. Didn't go out. I had to travel 2 hours one way to go to uni. Anyway, like fucking, it was not the right time, not the right place. That's not how I learned. Like everything was against me, but me being a stubborn northerner was like, nah, fuck you, I'm gonna do it. Like, fucking, I'm gonna like get a degree, and nah, it didn't work. Anyway, like I was in the bottom of the country, and my missus at the time was in the middle of the country, and I had to get a train to go see her. So, I think I had to go to London, and then through London, and then up, and fucking whatever. And it took me about 8 hours. And anyway, like I was fucking broke at the time, and not wanting to go to uni, and I kind of knew I was going to drop out and whatever. And like I was like, okay, I'd been coaching for fucking years before, but I was like, I'm actually going to like try and make a difference to the world, like one person at a time. And anyway, like I remember fucking leaving her. Like I got the bus to the train station, got the train. I was just like walking around before I got on the train. I was like, oh, I saw this mindset book. I was like, I don't know why, but I just picked it up. I was like, okay, cool. Alex, you don't fucking read. Well, why are you picking up books? Like, there's no point in doing this, mate. It'll take you 5 years to be able to read it. Anyway, I picked it up and I bought it. And then I had literally just enough money to buy my ticket home. And then that was it. I had nothing left in my account. I had no food back home. And I was just like, I don't know why, but I bought this book. And I sat on the train and read like 3 chapters, and that was fucking unheard of for me. And then that basically just sparked. I was like, yeah, I'm leaving uni. I had to move back home. I was fucking broke as piss, and then started up the business and was like, let's do it from here. But fucking Mindset is an incredible book.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's one. Mate, like so many people, even in the gym, like I'll tell people like through and through, whenever anyone asks me for what my number one read is, that's what I send them to. Like I'm always like, you need to get on Mindset. If you aren't reading Mindset, you're dropping the ball somewhere, and like you're leaving a lot of room for growth and development on the table. So it's one of those ones with people where I just find for them, I get them on that train quickly all the time and try and get them growing with reading it if I can, because I think there's a lot of valuable information in that piece that sometimes the rest of the world could hear a lot more of and have their perceptions challenged a little bit with that. So
for sure, man, and it sparks to other things, right? Like that. Like I don't know about you, but it seems like you're the same. Like I thrive off productivity. I thrive about like putting one foot in front of the other, and like I love spinning all the plates at once, which is idiotic but also incredible at the same time. Like because I fucking get so much energy about doing shit, and that book ends up sparking everything else. That's the reason why I fucking started picking up, Brené Brown and Alistair Campbell and all these other books. And then that just, again, your mind sort of opens up.
Oh yeah.
And your limitations now fucking go by the wayside, man.
Yeah. It's the mind is an incredible thing, eh? And like even talking more mindset related ones, one that you'd probably like, it's Going Right, a Logical Justification for Pursuing Your Dreams by Logan Gelbrich. It's another really like phenomenal book that it challenges everything. Like and this is like the other thing too in life, like for me, and I find like a lot of beliefs in it that I really like. Like there's points he talks about, and it's this one idea, and I heard it from him 3 years ago, and when I heard it, I thought I understood what it means, whereas like now I know it more. And it's a lot of what we're talking about is this idea of just seeking disconfirming information, right? Like we end up getting a worldview that we really establish, we believe in. And while it's great, like it's good to have these views, we also need to seek to be able to challenge it, right? Like it's like it's having that ability, I think. And I think you can see it in people, right? Like I see it in you whenever we're talking and having all these conversations on the side, where it's like you can hold 2 completely opposing beliefs about something. So it's like, it's even like CrossFit, like on one term, I can hold this belief, or even just fitness in general. Like I can argue for fitness because like I absolutely love it, but on the exact same time, I can argue against it. Like I can argue against it and say, based on where we're at societally, like, yes, we need fitness because of the obesity pandemic and all these other things that are going on. But I can also argue that we don't need fitness because we've gotten so lazy that we don't need to be able to physically do anything in our life. Now, I hate that, like being able to argue for that. And I think it's absolutely terrible, but I can't. And it's one of those things that, like, I think for me at least, like that's helped my growth so much because, like, shit, like that's heavy. Like, it's not enough to just like know and be able to like tell you why 5-3-1 or conjugates or this or that is going to be like the best method to develop your strength. I need to now be able to tell you why it's the worst method to be able to develop your strength. Or like same thing, like why is this application of CrossFit over here from this gym going to be better for this person, whereas for this other person over here it's going to be complete dog shit. Like being able to have to look at the world through that lens for me changed everything and just opened it up. And yeah, it was real cool. Like there's lots of little tools like that help quite a bit.
Where did that come from, man? Like I got exactly the same lesson, but that came from my mum. Like both my mum and I are Virgos, and she's very spiritual. So she sort of taught me from a young age, as like, look, Virgos need to be able to see both sides of both sides.
Yeah.
So you basically see like yes and no for this argument, and yes and no for this argument, and I'm like, okay, and that kind of not forced me, but allowed me to sit back and think about things a lot more. And then obviously life experiences enforce that and whatever, and then you see the benefit from it. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. It's actually a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I got that from my dad through and through. Like my dad,
cool.
interesting. Like depending, I guess, on like where you look at, like with astrology, I actually fall on like the exact cutoff. So I'm born April 20th. So I'm either, depending on where you look, Aries or Taurus. So it's like that right cutoff. My dad's born on the 19th of April. So he's Aries and like falls under that hat through and through. But my dad, he taught me, actually both him and my mom, they taught me in their own ways to sit back and observe everything. And like my dad's a real deep thinker. And so like my dad he taught me more collectively on how to sit back and look at organizations and take like this 1,000-foot view. And almost like my dad cares a lot, but he taught me how to take this 1,000-foot view and completely remove yourself from the process and just for what they are. Whereas my mom taught me to go real deep with people and to observe things and observe the emotions. So like she taught me like the empath side of things and how to like pretty much get on a level where I can almost put myself in a person's shoes and feel what they are feeling. So it's weird because I find sometimes people don't have that balance between their parents where like they're completely different but completely the same at the same time, and they just complement each other. So I was super fortunate to have that with both of them and have them both show me like those sides of the spectrum, because I find sometimes some people like they gravitate more towards one side whenever they're looking at you, whereas like it was phenomenal to get to grow and see them learn that, and that was instilled from me from the get-go. And then from there it just was something that continued to build, and it's something again and again, like if I ever find myself not getting lost but straying away from that for some reason, whether it's the people in my circle or the people that I've intentionally sought out to surround myself with, they, whether they intend to or not, serve me up a reminder that I need to make sure that I'm still looking at it from all these different angles and that I'm still thinking about it and just taking that 1,000-foot view and looking at that situation from that view each and every single time. So yeah.
Do you think that helps with coaching in particular?
100%.
Oh yeah.
I think it's so important. Like, I don't know. People tell me whenever I coach that I'm calm. Like, people are always like, man, like, you're so calm. I don't get it. Like, you're so calm when you're coaching. I'm like, yo, if you were in my head, like, you would have no fucking idea. I'm like almost shitting a brick each time that I'm coaching. Like, I know that, like, I'm at a point where I'll walk out. I'm like, yeah, I'm prepared. I got this down. This is the structure. This is the flow. But in my head, I'm like, motherfucker, like, are we on time? Oh man, like, you got to go get to this person. Like, I'm going through like all your standard operating procedures in a class and keeping this checklist going in the back of my head while being present and all of these different things. And it's but I find, it helps immensely with coaching because it allows you like somehow amidst all the chaos, especially in a WOD, like in amongst that chaos, when you have 12 different people all like throwing a barbell around or doing these different things, it allows you to take that view and see everything happening. Like I joke with people all the time because people will try and get away with things on me, and they're like, man, you just see everything. Like there'll be people coming in doing like their EPP, so their extra performance stuff, and like I'm walking by cueing people in the class, and then I'm also telling them, or like they'll come up to me and be like, yeah, like did you see like when I was doing this? I'm like, yeah, I saw them. They're like, how the fuck did you see? I'm like, yeah, like I'm like, I just take that view, I see everything. Or people will be like, oh, did you see when this happened? Like you had your back turned, so certainly you didn't. I'm like, no, like I saw it. And they're like, how the fuck did you see? I'm like, guys, I just positioned myself. Like there's actually like a reason why I'll position myself in the room the way that I position myself, and that's so that I can see and like see absolutely everything. Because if I can't see everything, that means I'm dropping the ball somewhere. So
that's so funny, man. I literally would do exactly the same thing. And like we had a pretty decent sized gym, and there'd be quite a lot of people in the open gym, and there'd be people doing other shit, and we had some weightlifters. We actually had a Commonwealth weightlifter, Bryony, used to come in, fucking legend. But she used to obviously do her shit. And then obviously a class with like 16 people or whatever, and I was fuck. I used to play the card of like, you always make a joke, right? Jokes always put a smile on someone's face, and they forget about the stress for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And I always make a joke saying, because I'm Northern, I'm a wizard.
Yeah.
So I've got eyes everywhere, and it just used to freak people out. But the best thing is like you give someone a cue, or you tell them to stop thinking about something. Like, how the fuck did you know I was thinking about that?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I'm inside your head.
Yeah.
I've got eyes everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they're just like, all of a sudden you just walk away and you like can already see they're like, what the fuck? But it's wondering what's going on, and you're like, yeah, like legit guys, like little do they know that you've been in your shoes. You've probably felt what they're feeling before. And even too, like, and that goes back to showing like the other things that are super incredibly, I think, important as a coach is like you have that trust, you have that buy-in from that individual. And that's something like, again, in the industry that I think it gets overshadowed is like everyone thinks that we're selling a service, right? Like we're selling CrossFit, we're selling strength and conditioning, we're selling powerlifting, weightlifting, bodybuilding, we're selling this 8-week challenge. Fuck, man, like it's relationships. That's what it is. And it's like you said, like coming back to like that mental bit, like I'm convinced that no, it's the relationship. It's the people that you surround yourself with. It, like I always say it all the time, like it comes back to the people. And at the end of the day, like when you look at it, like, yeah, sure, you can get into your head, like into these people's heads, but from a coach at least, like the way that you've got into your heads is because you've taken the time and you've actually curated and cultivated that relationship. Like you've had that discussion with them, you've talked to them, you've built trust. So for them to be like, man, how are you in my head? It's like, because I've done my fucking job as a coach and I've got to know you. Like I can look at you. Like there are people in the gym where I'll be like, you all good? And they're like, yeah, I'm good. And then at the end of the class, they'll come up to me and be like, hey man, like this is going on in my life. And they'll tell me about what's happening in their life. And I'm like, yeah. I figured something was going on. That's why I asked. And they're like, you knew? I'm like, yeah. I thought I was like, just like giving off vibes that I was all good. I was like, yeah, to everyone else. But I was like, I could tell something was up. So like I was going to hit you up tonight if you didn't tell me what was up. So like, they're just like, oh shit. Okay. And like, they'll just talk and like, let it all out. But that's the thing. Like, you got to do that groundwork. They're your people. And so many people, they miss out on that. They don't. And that comes back to that responsibility. They don't realize that like the coach, I don't know, being a coach is the greatest responsibility in the world, and it's the greatest privilege in the world. And so many of us sometimes just get caught up. We get caught up in the money. We get caught up in doing this, and that, and we just forget that it's like, no, like this is like, it's that responsibility again. We're responsible for people's lives, for their potential, for who they're becoming, and we just gotta keep on top of that. That's all.
Yeah, man. They come into the gym, right, and they put confidence in one person with their health.
Yeah.
And they only get one set of health, one body.
Yeah.
And they're like, yep, it's yours for an hour.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what the fuck? Okay. And then it bleeds up into everything else, man. Like they get the confidence to do other things, hearing that someone was in a really bad place upstairs, and then they end up coming through the shutters and throwing down and working out, getting a fist bump and an ass slap and chalk marks everywhere. And then it's like the next thing you know, they've quit the job that they fucking hate. They left a toxic relationship. They're now on the mend. They're in a better place. They're off the meds. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And it's like, people do get sort of a cat in headlights about, oh, I only teach them how to air squat and thruster.
Yeah.
It's like, you do, but your attention to detail on the physical movements ends up creating the discipline to other things.
Oh, yeah.
And like I say all the time, it's not the business of fitness, it's the business of people.
Yeah.
And like, fuck, money comes, man. Like to be honest, very similar background, blue collar. I can't remember. Well, it was actually maybe 2 years ago, 1 year ago, when my mum didn't have two jobs.
Yeah.
So for all my life, my mum's always had two jobs.
Yeah.
And like the blue collar is just like, fuck, I wouldn't know what to do with money even if I had it. You know what I mean? So we might as well just focus on the people, and that'll come down the line.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But people do get fucking too invested in the money.
Yeah, all through and through.
Sitting back, I can see through it. You'll be able to see through it, and anyone with a brain cell up there will be able to see through it too. But I guess what's really interesting, because I'm trying to figure out too with the balance, and I know fucking every other coach out there is trying to figure it out too, whether it be athlete and coach and life, whether it be like just their own head trying to keep themselves above water, whether that's their family as well, whether they're coaching and have like a young family and they're a parent.
Yeah.
Like, what is your like go-to, all right, this is going to ground me, this is going to wipe the slate clean, this is going to like sort my head out? Do you need to like completely detach? Do you throw yourself in deeper? Do you sip a coffee? Do you, I don't know, like go home, for example? Obviously not now with the pandemic, but
yeah.
And it's a bit of a fucking distance.
Yeah. I have two things, like legit. For me, so definitely depending on the time, like just throw myself in deeper. Sometimes I'll just keep trying to go deeper. My other thing that I do is I just go out and unplug, and like whether that's like going out on a hike, going out on a tramp somewhere, like whatever have you, or even going out into nature. Like it could even be something as simple as like going to the beach, leaving my car or my phone in the car and going for a walk for an hour and just not paying attention. Like it's things like that I find help wipe the slate clean. Like I've done other things in my life, like move. Like I find moving sometimes, like we move and people I think sometimes don't realize that like when you move, that gives you the opportunity to start fresh, like all over. And it's like you can restart your life because yeah, sure, you've got all of these other things, but like when you move to a new city, you can start like square one and restart and completely build yourself because no one knows you. But once you've settled in, once you've found that place that you love, yeah, it's like it's finding those things. Like it's that going out in nature. Like, man, I try and get out. Well, I get out every day actually lately. Even if it's for a 45-minute walk, like that's something that I try and like built into habit is just to get out, unplug. Like I'll throw on a podcast or an audiobook, or I'll just go out and not listen to anything and just try and be present. I'll do things, yeah, like with work, I'll just sometimes throw myself in deeper, or whether it's coffee is a big thing for me. So whether it's like coffee and just chilling out and relaxing and reflecting, or journaling, like I have lots of little habits that I've built in that I find help with it. Whether it's journaling, whether it's coffee, whether it's meditating, like things like that. Like I never used to be big on meditating, and then one day I just realized it's like, man, like, yeah, sure. Like I do use an app sometimes, but sometimes I'm also just like, cool, I'll set a timer for 10 minutes. And I'm like, I'm just going to give myself 10 minutes to sit here and think. And you just sit and think, and that's it. And I find for me that helps clear up some of the noise, because it's so easy to get caught up in all the noise and everything being like, you know, it's like you open social media, and I guarantee if you scroll through like one scroll of your feed, you're going to look through and you're going to be like, man, like, what am I missing out on? Like what I'm tripping. I'm not where I need to be. And you're going to get this constant reminder. So I just find sometimes it's nice to have those habits to pull back in, where you can actually, like your idea of like having the gratitude journal, man, that's huge. Like like, I think that that's absolutely massive to be able to sit down every single day and write, like, what are 3 things that you're grateful for? Like those to me, I think it helps us so many times, because it's easy to get caught up in wanting more. And we might sit there and be like, oh, I don't want anything else from life. But I think that sometimes, based on just how society is, we get exposed to that want for more, no matter where we try and look. And it's not even us wanting it. It's just things that are imposed on us. Like, I don't own a house yet. I don't own this flash car. Like, those aren't my values to own a flash car or something like that. But it's like very easy to get caught up when you're out for a walk and you see a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or something like that, and you're like, one day that might be sweet. But it's always just checking yourself and making sure that your values align with what you're trying to accomplish. So
Yeah, sure, man. Being present is a big one. Like, that's something that is really difficult to do, but especially now, like you said, with the social media. But like every morning, I'll read my book.
Yep.
I'll have my coffee before I've even gone on my phone, and that's a big one for me. It's like I'll put my phone face down. It might be next to me in the chair, it doesn't matter. But like, I've not actually opened it. I've not messaged anyone back from the UK. I've not fucking look at the emails. Not done anything. I'm there stroking the cat, reading the book, having a coffee, and like that's being able to set my mind to then go forward. Like, I own my mornings, so it doesn't matter about what happens in the day. It could be an awful day, but my morning's a win, so the day's a win. And nature for me, man, again, like, fuck, people don't respect it as much as they do, but fuck me, like, leave every device in your car or at home and just fuck off in nature for a while, and you'll feel summit, that's for sure. You'll feel summit. So how did this all like transition over to like Virtuous Approach then, man? Like, because first of all, I love the name.
Yeah.
And second of all, I fucking love the logo.
Oh, yeah. I like the little skull
It's
bandana.
badass, man.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, oh yes, I'm on board.
Yeah. So it transitioned, and Virtuous was birthed, right? Like, it was this idea. So I was in this space, and it's like, you look at lots of people, and especially depending on who you look at in the space. So like a guy that I look at, just because he's like real popular, but I also listen to his story, and we've talked about like these successes, is Ryan Fisher. So he owns like Chalk Performance out of the States. And the thing, like, I heard him on a podcast, and he was just telling his story, and his story to me was like, shit, like a real wake up story. And I found, like, and he tells the story of how he was like stealing to get food and living on a friend's couch and like broke as fuck. And then all of a sudden now he owns like one of the biggest gyms or CrossFit gyms in the world. Like, the man, he's got some stuff, but he said something on one of his podcasts that triggered me. And he was like, yeah, like, I have this business, I have all this, but it wasn't, and it's not that money matters, but he was like, I wasn't making enough money. And I wasn't getting by. Like, I was still coming up short. And he talked about getting into the online space. And when I heard that, like, it just kind of like rained this light bulb off in me, because like, as you know, like in the space, especially if you're a coach and you're doing one-on-one stuff, like, you're giving so much of yourself and your time. And there's all of these other things, like, you still need to make a living. And right now there's, you know what it's like, there's this ebb and flow where like people almost do coaching as a hobby because they can't afford to do it as a profession. And like, some of them do it as a hobby just because it's a hobby to them. But like, my whole outlook is it should be a profession. And to me, I saw getting into the online space as a means of trying to ensure that I'm doing whatever I can to remain as a professional. But I also saw it as, right now, more and more, especially with COVID, like, everything's going more into that online space, which guts me, because I think that nothing replaces having one-on-one interaction with a person. Like, you can have relationships and you can have all these things, but there's just something about being there and being present with that person while they're working out that I think that Skype and Zoom and everything else, just it can't replace that connection that you can have. Like, Skype and Zoom are awesome because at least you can like see that person still, whereas like, if you're administering programs, sure, you get some feedback, you can get videos from your clients, but I just find that it doesn't give you as much of that one-on-one touch. But for me, I'd actually played around. So it's like, you talked about bathers and things like that. I've had 2 different coaching companies that I've gone with. So like the first one, especially going through once I got my undergrad, a lot of people were always like, man, when I first met you, my first impression of you was like, you were this big meathead. Because it was back when I was a bodybuilding, powerlifting still. And they're like, yeah, like you were this super big meathead. And then I got talking to you and you're like this really like mindful individual. And I was like, cool. So I like started this company called the Mindful Meathead. And like, that's what I was like rolling with that. And after a while, I just realized, I was like, shit, like, yeah, I don't mind working with a few bodybuilders here and there, but that's all I'm attracting. Like I was like, that, like I'm just getting all these bros. I want to help them, but I'm like, I'm missing the market. Like I'm still missing all of these other people that matter to me. And so then I rebranded, went with, it was called the Scent Strength, because like this idea of like just finding your mountain in life and climbing it and conquering it and just moving like that motivated me. And then also giving people the strength to go through life did. And that, like, it was going real well. Everything, like the rebound was great. That was awesome. But one of the biggest things that I found, so like, it's silly of me, but I'm one of those people that believe in staying in your scope of practice in the industry. Like, I think because there's like no governance, that you can do whatever you want. Like, you can go out, you can label yourself as a nutritionist, and you can be providing nutrition for people. I sometimes make the dig that as coaches, we're also like underpaid counselors, because we're out there like dealing with some real heavy shit for people sometimes. And it's like one of those things where it's like, in school, they don't give you the skill set to deal with that. And like, it's like from the counseling perspective, it's like we aren't life coaches, but we are unintentionally, and we help people with that because we're helping them, we're guiding them through life. And fitness just seems to be the medium that we do that with. But yeah, like I just find, just trying to think of like the best way to describe it. Oh, I'm just having a brain fart here.
That's all right, dude.
Yeah. I'm just having the most like massive brain fart. Going back to me, I just had the biggest brain fart. I usually don't have these brain farts like this.
I get them all the time, and like I'm blonde,
yeah,
you know what I mean? So
yeah, I had it, and then I went on this random tangent where I was talking about things, like being like, come back to it, but I need to finish tangent, and then now I'm like, no, so like just like looking at that, like that idea of like coming into virtuous then. So one of the biggest things that started end up happening was I had so many people like reaching out to me and being like, bro, can you like write me a nutrition program and plan? And I was like, hey, like, you know what? Totally respect you guys reaching out to me and asking me that question. While I could, I won't, because I haven't actually taken a degree. I don't even have a certification in it. Like, I'm more your training guy. That was it. So one of my real good mates and I ended up starting up, because he's taking his master's in nutrition and has a few certifications and everything else. So we ended up partnering up and doing it. And where Virtuous came from, Virtuous to me was like just this idea of doing the, like from CrossFit, doing the common uncommonly well, if you look at what Greg Glassman talks about, but more so for me, it was this idea of striving for excellence in everything that you do and just making sure that you have some fun while doing so. And I think that like you hit on it. We've talked about people, like this idea of like even in a coaching space, like your attention to detail that you spend on something like an air squat. Like people are like, oh, air squats are simple, yet it's like you look around the gym and so many people are constantly fucking them up. And you're like, guys, no, like pay attention to this stuff, because it's like the way you do small things is the way you do all things, right? So it's like if you're cutting corners in one area of your life, if you're cutting corners in an air squat, I know that you're cutting corners in a workout. It's that simple. That's the message that you send to me, because if that's the standard that you're willing to uphold with something as dumb and simple as an air squat, as some people say, how can I expect someone to actually uphold the standard and give their full attention to something like a clean, right? And it's one of those things where that's where Virtuous came from, was like this idea of like, now I want to actually like change it up. I want to be that guy who, instead of focusing on your quick fix, come in, smash the shit out of your body every single day, turn off. Like that's something I always get from people is, man, like I just come here to turn off. And I'm like, this is the most turned on place that you need to be when you walk through those doors. Turn on the rest of your life, but fucking turn on in the gym. Like this is the most important time for you to ever be turned on in your life, and you're telling me I just want to turn off. Like it's one of those things that gets me. So that's like one of my biggest pet peeves. But I want it to be a space, whether it be online, whether that transitions to the people that I work with, where we start talking about things on a deeper level, where we start talking about the process, right? Like, fuck the results. The process is what matters. You and I both know that. And just we're so caught up in that like results oriented world that we forget like the process is where the magic happens. The process is where we become who we're meant to become. The process is where we answer that dying question that so many of us have of like who we are meant to be, like, and why we are here. It's the process is the answer to all that, and the process is what gives you the skill set and the tools to go out and handle the rest of your life and be able to make the most out of the rest of your life. And that's what Virtuous came to. Like, it was that combination of like taking all of these things and deciding that I wanted to create a space where maybe instead of putting out all the exact same information that everyone else does in the world, that I can just start putting something out different. And whether that fucks people off or not, I'm all right with that. Like, it's a different message. It's a message that I had the fortunate opportunity to get exposed to time and time again when I was up at CrossFit New Zealand with Darren. Was like, instead of playing this high intensity game where people get burnt out, instead of playing this game where you work with someone for 2 years and you wish them best of luck and send them on their way, why don't we look at sustainability? Like, why don't we look at, instead of like make someone competent enough that at the end of a year they could go off and do it themselves, but they're coming back because of the experience that they have. And from that, like, it just opened up this language of like, why aren't we trying to be sustainable? Like, why aren't we teaching people about sustainability? Like, so many people are like, man, like, I'm in my 30s, I gotta see what my body can do now. And I'm like, cool. So like, what, when you're 65 and you got your grandkids running around and they're like, Granddad, how much did you used to be able to lift? And you're like, oh, back in my day, I used to be able to clean 100 kilos, but today I'm lucky if I can pick 10 kilos up off the ground. Like, your grandkids aren't going to give a shit. And like, so many people play that game. They don't look at the fact that it's like I've seen 60-year-olds clean 80 kilos and stand it up, no problem before. Like, I've seen these people move savagely well, but we just get so caught up in that instant gratification, that short game, that I'm like my number one question I ask every single client that I work with is, where do you see yourself at 60? And then they like tell me, and then I'm like, okay, cool. Where do you see yourself, and what does fitness mean to you at 80? And they're like, and then they'll like give me some like idea of what it looks like. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, how about 90? And they'll tell me, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, doesn't it seem like a dumbass idea to try and maximize everything at 30 when you still have 2/3 of your life left? And like, they'll just be like, well, like, not really, unless like there's someone who's like a high level competitor trying to like maximize and compete at sport. And like, those people rock. Like, I've done that. I've worked with professional level athletes and done all these things and like really enjoyed that time. But for the rest of us, for the 99% of us in the world, it's that sustainability. And like,
for sure, man.
Yeah, we don't talk about that enough, and it does my head in. So that was kind of the amalgamation, or like the whole build up to what Virtuous, and like what was the impetus that made me decide to start Virtuous, was just as a place and a hub to create a different conversation. So,
but it's the whole thing of like, when people say, you know, they want to get into CrossFit, but they don't want to, they can't even do a handstand, never mind walk on the hands on an obstacle. I'm like, did you watch the documentary? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, you do realize that's the games.
Yeah.
That's basically watching the Olympics or watching Usain Bolt run the 100 meters and saying, I'm never running in my life because I'll never be like that. And I'm like, well, yeah, because you're 60 fucking 5 and he's the fastest man alive.
Yeah.
These are the fittest human beings on the planet, as defined by obviously the CrossFit definition of fitness. So no, you're not going to go to the games and challenge them. I'm sorry, but that's just reality. But at the end of the day, like, you can learn how to air squat uncommonly well.
Yeah.
You can learn how to be able to hit depth. You can be able to like pick something up like a deadlift. Like, I think my favorite thing to see people do for the first time is a box jump.
Hell yeah.
Never mind a fucking deadlift, a clean, a snatch, although the snatch is the best thing on the planet, in and outside of the gym, take that as you will. But fucking box jump, when people like, either jump onto a box or jump onto a plate. Like I've done it from fucking 7-year-olds all the way up to like OAPs, and it is electric
Yeah.
when they jump on that box, man.
Hell
They're
yeah.
like, no way am I getting up there. I'm gonna break my shins. Not a chance. All right, Dorothy, we're gonna start off on like just jumping on the spot.
Yep.
What do you mean jumping on the spot? I'm like, just jumping on the spot, mate. Like,
Yep.
"Oh, okay. And then, then a plate and a couple plates. And next thing you know, she's bouncing up and down on a box. You're just like, that's fucking cool, mate.
Yeah, it is. And
Fucking
like
cool.
that one, yeah, I'd have to say like that's one of my favorites too. Like you see that because like that too, like you see all these people, especially as you're building up in that height too, like you can see all the worries, you can see all the fears, and then all of a sudden you see like it's almost like that moment where like the light bulb goes off, whether they flip the switch, whether it's after it's happened or whether it's right before it goes to happen, where they just for some reason turn everything off and decide to believe in themselves and they make it happen. And they're like, well, I'm either going to smash the fuck out of my shins or I'm getting on this box. And it's like that proverbial, like just jumping off the edge and hoping that your parachute opens. Like that's what it, like you see it and you see that outcome. And then all of a sudden they're like, holy shit, I just did this. And you're like, yes, you fucking did. There you go.
Like,
yeah.
fuck. It goes back to like being able to see everything and positioning yourself. Like, I've had fucking loads of people like put themselves in the corner, face the wall. You know what I mean? And I see them trying, and I'm like, all right, in about 12 minutes, they're going to end up doing something they never thought they'd be able to do it. And then, like, you're in the middle of a workout, and they end up trying it and fucking succeed. And then you just see this fucking crazy coach just going mental at the at the fucking front, like throws a PVC pipe because he's so excited. He's just like, you just fucking did it.
Yeah.
It's like, go ring the bell. And just ringing the PB bell. The whole gym's just like, way. I was like, that's the fucking point, man. Not like everyone's out of the open. There's one person still going, like on round fucking, I don't know, 14, cleaning 150 for fucking reps. And it's just like, that's cool, man. Like I'm not taking anything away from it. That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
But like, fuck me, like the fucking the thought on someone's face, or the view on someone's face, especially on their face when they get on that box, man.
Fuck yeah.
Or do something they never thought, like,
that they can do. Cool. Yeah. It's that turning cans into cans, right? And like when you that's the coolest thing. Like you see that light up, you see that like, holy shit, I can actually do this. And that, man, there's nothing greater than that. Like that's
all we need, man. You literally see that on someone's face and you're like, okay, like for me anyway, like going back to being an introvert, like I don't like the attention. I don't like people going, oh my God, thank you very much. I'm like, all I gotta do is see you do it.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna walk away.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a fist bump and like probably tear up a little bit because I'm an emotional guy. And then I'll just walk away. I'll be like, I don't want thank yous. I don't want anything. I don't know what to do with it. I just like, all right, let's on to the next thing. You know what I mean? Fuck yeah, man. Like it's so cool. So how did you get into the CrossFit scene? Like you said, you fell into the bodybuilding scene. Like you just plowed yourself into that after some difficulties upstairs, and then played around with the powerlifting scene. I guess through the whole university, right? Did you get into powerlifting through uni? Yeah. Like most people end up doing that, and I fucking love that. Yeah. I absolutely like powerlifting or weightlifting. They usually go from university, and that's probably like I'm not really a big fan of uni. I'm a bit biased on that, you know what I mean? But like if there's anything good about it, people get into strength spots. And then CrossFit, man. Like, I mean, you clearly like it because you coach it.
Yeah.
So how do you get into that? Do you like? How do you train? What's your daily? What's your weekly training like? Because I found a lot of coaches in CrossFit. They're either one or two, right? Yeah. They either go complete athlete. I'm going to be the fucking dog's bollocks here. Look at me, I'm Billy Big Bollocks on the block. Or they go the other way and just be like, well, I'm kind of beat up at the moment, so I'm not doing too much CrossFit. They're like, what do you mean you're not doing too much CrossFit? I was like, well, I feel like I've been hit by a train. Yeah. Because I'm looking after you guys. So like, how'd you get into it? And then like, how do you train, man?
So I got into it. So like, funnily enough, when I was going through my undergrad, I actually did, it was like an internship, but I did an internship working with the Paralympic Powerlifting Association back in Canada, but they were based out of a CrossFit box. So I was like going there teaching these guys how to lift and constantly seeing these classes going on. And I was like, man, this is fucking cool. Like it's really cool. Like I've never seen a community like this. Like I'm used to going to your regular, like either powerlifting or bro gym where people will all just have their headphones in and don't say a damn word to each other. And I was like, man, this seems cool. And like me always just questioning, like I would ask my mentors, be like, what do you guys think about CrossFit? And we finally hit a point where I think it was the 2016 games where there was the event. It was like the ranch run and then deadlift ladder. And I watched the dancer go out and he get place on the run. And I was like, yeah, but like that run's still like more impressive than most other people. And then he came out, pulled 225 kilos cold or warm after his run and built all the way up to over 300 kilos. And I was like, well, damn, this guy's out deadlifting what I deadlift. And he's a CrossFitter. So I was like, how does that work? Like that kind of slapped a lot of everything that I learned in school in the face. And I started just questioning everything that we were doing. And finally, like my mentor one day pretty much told me if I don't stop asking about CrossFit, I can just get the fuck out. Like it was pretty much where that it got to. And funny enough, like I went home that day, said to Danny, how long do we have left on our lease? And she was like, oh, like a few more months. So I was like, okay, cool. We're moving to Australia because we had been talking about it a bit. And we moved to Australia. And like up that time for like 2 years at that point, I'd been like, man, we should try CrossFit sometime. Because each day that we drove to on the way to our gym, there was a box about a block down. And finally, when we moved to Oz, we get off this train station or at this train station after being there for like 3 days. And I see this CrossFit box across this train station stop. I was like, man, we should do CrossFit. She looks at me and she's like, okay, you've been talking about this for 2 years. You either need to shut the fuck up about it. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went and did it. And like the first WOD was running. Like it was a ladder. You do a 100-meter run, rest for the time it took you to do it, 200-meter rest.
Oh, fuck them, man.
All the way up to K, all the way back down. And like the coach at the time, I didn't know it. He showed up and he was hungover as fuck. Like I could tell he had like, that was the WOD he came up with so that he didn't have to coach that day. But like, I loved it and the community loved it. Everyone was in it. I was like, fuck yeah, CrossFit's it. And like, I was like, if this is what like a running piece and I hate running is like, imagine what it's like when I get a barbell in my hands. And like, that was it. Like, I found the thing, you've probably found it too, is like when you're away from home, CrossFit is home. Like you come in and you have all of these people and they become your family. And that's what it was for me. Like CrossFit became like wherever I go, if I find a box where like the culture's in check, the coaching's in check, and more importantly, the community's in check, like it's my home. So to me, that's just what keeps me in the CrossFit space. And there's an edge to CrossFit that I do love as well too. Like there's something about it where it's like you're just challenging so many things. And I do think after being in it now for like 3 years that it's collectively all around for general physical preparedness, for wellness, for ticking all the boxes in life. I think it's one of the most comprehensive systems, and that it, when executed well, like it's all you need. And like, yeah, there's more things, like you can do all these other things in life and what have you. But I just think like from a pure perspective on being able to get the most out of life and the most enjoyment and fulfillment, that's where it's at. And I know
for sure, man.
Things. But yeah, that got me into it. And just since then, I haven't looked back. And then my own training, I do about like I try to do about like 3 of the WODs, whether it's in class, because like my schedule is pretty chocker. So sometimes I try and book into classes, but sometimes I end up just doing the classes on my own, just because I'm like, yeah, coaching to me is more important than like my own actual like athletic goals or anything like that. And I actually don't have any athletic goals. I just want to be able to like get the most out of my life. So I do about like 3 WODs, and then I throw in some bodybuilding stuff just to stay nice and healthy and make sure that everything's moving the way that it should be moving. Right now, I'm like rehabbing a couple of injuries. I ended up wrecking my shoulder, and then I've just got a little bit of piriformis syndrome flaring up. But whenever that happens, it ebbs and flows, and then I go back to points where like I'm booked in doing 5 classes a week and going like that, and that just ends up working for me. So yeah, that's pretty much
general CrossFit, man. Like if you enjoy it, you're gonna end up doing it, right? And it is the community, it's the people, man, and the people are like-minded. Like you do get those boxes that won't suit you, and that's fine. And you do get those pricks, and I'm like, mate, there's cunts everywhere. Like, you're just gonna have to live with that and deal with it. Like, and especially if you know, even ourselves, especially we're from different places. You know what I mean? And if you're from different places, you're going to be different people, and that's just inevitable.
Yep.
So you're going to inevitably bump into people, and you're going to clash heads, and that's fine. Like, everyone's mature. Well, you'd hope so. You can shake hands and sort of and walk away from each other. But mate, the most of the time you walk into a box and there's so many like-minded people, they end up warming to you, you warm to them, and it's just like, fuck. You can actually, like, you know, crack a joke as soon as you walk in. Someone takes the piss out of your bloody shoes, or usually for me, because I'm not wearing I'm wearing odd socks or something daft. I feel like I look like I've been fucking pulled through a bush backwards or something like that. But that's all right, you know. Fuck, the community of CrossFit, man, is a special thing. And they have done incredibly well of the whole community thing, and I just hope other gyms follow suit. You know, whether it's powerlifting, weightlifting, you know, they're the weird cousins, right? Powerlifting and weightlifting gyms, strong gyms. I fucking love them. Like, spending time in those gyms are so fun, and the training you get done in them is fucking fun, man. But like, they are like the weird cousin.
Yeah, they are.
They just, like, you know, do a set, sit down, eat some Haribos, drink a coffee, go for a shit, come back and be like, I'm not ready yet.
Yeah. Back down again. All right, I can knock off another 5 minutes. All right, maybe I'm ready now. Yeah.
I do I do love training like that. It's fun.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh yeah. It's like then on the complete polar opposite, we have CrossFitters who are like, bro, took me 5 seconds to set up and do that 1 rep of clean today. Got 85 seconds left. What am I supposed to do? Do I get more? Like, and it's just like, no, chill out, rest, recover.
What is it?
Actually sit. And they're like, sit. What the fuck sits? So always pick out. You can pick out the power lifter. You can pick out the weightlifter in the class, because you're like, haha, you pulled up that stool. I see you. Or you're like, oh yeah, I see you sitting on those plates. I know what's happening. Everyone else is like, yo, is he all right? That was 1 rep. And you're just like, guys, I'm just maximizing my recovery over here. You don't know shit. And meanwhile, you're like, fuck me, we're going again in 85 seconds. Okay.
85 seconds? Fuck, that's too short. Like, fucking Monday with the snatches, man. You do a snatch, you load your barbell. You had 75 seconds in one set. It's only fucking 1 rep. Finish the snatch, drop it, load the bar, chalk up if you need to, and then you sit down. And you're like, holy fuck, like, I've only got another like 60 seconds. And you see everyone there with their hands on their hips, just sort of looking around like, what do I do? Do I do a double? Do I do a triple? Like, kind of like leaning on one leg, like, and I'm like gassed. Just sat there on my stool, like, fucked.
And then they're all just like, well, shit, this is boring. Single seat cool, but like, this is boring. And you're just like, oh my God, guys, no, like, this is like, take your time, rest. And they're like, rest? What? Like, I thought it was as many reps as we could get in 1 minute. So, or 7 reps.
7 reps in 75 seconds.
Yeah.
Fuck. Yeah, like when you fucking go for a 1 rep max and they're like, so I'm done. I'm like, it's been 5 minutes. I was like, yeah, but that's all I can lift. I've not even got my shoes on yet.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you do have your shoes on, you don't have them tied up. You don't have them strapped up. They look like you just like put them on like flip-flops or jandos. And you're just like, guys, like, surely you aren't done yet. Like, I see it happen all the time. It's like when we tested even front squats there like 2 weeks back, people were like 6 minutes in. Well, I've hit my PR. I'm like, guys, you have 18 minutes. I'm like, at this point, my ass has still been sitting on the bench for 3 minutes, just recovering in between sets. But they're all like, no, like, I've hit it. That's it. I'm like,
what do I do now? Do I do it again? I was like, no, it's your 1 rep. You shouldn't be able to do it again.
It just gets you, but that's part of the fun of it. So
fuck yeah, it's funny. It is fucking funny seeing people that come in, but it creates that community, man, and you got to be able to give each other a little bit of shit.
Exactly.
All right, man. I'll give you some quick fire questions, and I'll let you get some brekkie before I know you're coaching again. Favorite meal?
Oh man, my favorite meal, I would say pizza. Yeah.
Oh my guy, man after my own heart. What about favorite exercise or movement?
Favorite exercise, I would say, even though I can't do it, my favorite exercise is bar muscle up. But just for the reason of being able to get up and over something, I think that there's something from a gymnastics expression when you have that bar muscle up that or a ring muscle up. It's just like, it's beauty. Just like the snatch. It's always that toss up between the muscle up and the snatch. But in saying that too, like my favorite one is the squat too, because it's just the perfect analogy for life. Something takes you down, you stand back up with it. That's it. So yeah.
I can see you right. Are you a morning or a night person?
I am a morning person through and through. Like I wake up usually at 4:30, 5:30 in the morning. So it's morning person through and through.
Well, if you're coaching the 5:30s, like I don't know how people train that early.
Bro, like, they aren't even that early. That's how they train. It's like that. What? Yeah. Oh, we're doing cleans? Okay, cool. Sweet. And you're like, okay, guys, this is what it is. And like the vibe from a morning class to a night class, like the morning class, you're coming in, like you're hyped up off caffeine. You're like, let's fucking go. And all the members are like, hey, what's up? I'm still waking up. Whereas like the night class, you like get the members coming in. Yeah, sure, they're tired from work, but they're like high off pre-workout or caffeine, and they're like, yeah, let's go. And like you could actually yell and not be like, oh shit, I think I just woke you up again. So yeah, definitely. I'm a morning person, but yeah, I definitely also thrive with the nights, or at least night coaching as well too. So it's like good fun there.
Fucking, I love coaching the morning crew. I think they're a different fucking breed, man.
Oh, they are. Yeah.
They're incredible, but fuck me, I have no idea how they perform at 5:30 in the morning. Like my body's like crying. It's just like, no, don't do it, mate. Don't do it to me.
Yeah, like your body's like, is there like a bed somewhere here that I can just lay down and yell cues at you guys still as you're coaching?
No, Kels, I'm deloading. I was like, this is a max out week. No. Auto regulation, mate. Like
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh fuck. What about favorite movie?
Favorite movie, How to Train Your Dragon. Through and through.
Oh, have you watched the newest one they put on Netflix?
Yeah.
Oh, mate, it's sick.
Yeah,
I fucking loved it.
Yeah.
Oh, so enjoyed that one.
Favorite movie through and through. Like,
What about favorite book?
Favorite book? Yeah, I'd say Mindset by Carol Dweck. So that one and Going Right. Those two are like my favorite books, hands down. So
fucking great books.
Yeah.
This is a bit of a deep one. 3 things you'd say to a young person.
3 things I'd say to a young person.
I can't get off your phone.
Yeah. No. I'd say back yourself. So like that's always just a vibe. Like I think sometimes like even as a young kid, there's like all these things, and we just get so many things thrown on us and told so much to do. But back yourself is a huge thing. Like always back yourself, no matter what you're doing in life. Just back yourself, because if you don't, it's like that believe in yourself, but like back yourself, because no one else ever will. Like that's it. Like if you don't, you can't expect anyone else to.
So true.
My other thing that I'd say to a kid is never let your mind grow shut. Like no matter what happens in life, never let it grow shut. Always strive to be learning. Understand that like that learning too is completely context specific to each individual. Some people are going to learn differently, and just because an institution labels you or gives you a grade about your level of knowledge, that doesn't actually even give you a clear depiction of what your knowledge is. It's something that's been like chosen. It's a set of tests or answers or questions that have been chosen from someone else. So don't let that be the thing that deters you from learning and making the most of your life. Second one would be have fun. Like just stay a kid at heart. So many people go out and they just grow old, man. Like they grow old way too fucking fast. And I think like you see it, like Les Brown talks about it too. Like you see the people at 30 that are dead, right? Like they've already mailed home everything in life. And I think the people who are going to live the longest in life are always going to have fun, no matter what happens. Like they're always going to make it fun. So yeah, I'd say have fun, back yourself, never let your mind grow shut. Those are the biggest things.
Love that, man.
Yeah.
Love them. That even relates to adults. Never
Yeah.
mind just kids, man. That's fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. As an athlete, are you a hype the fuck up and let's go sort of athlete? Are you cool and collective like a cucumber and just walk in, do your shit and
I am hyped the fuck up. I am that guy who, like, I'm yelling, I'm screaming, I'm making noise. I'm needing, like, when I'm powerlifting, I'm needing people to smack me on the back. Like, that is me. Like, I am like your classic, like, when it's time to throw, oh yeah, like, get me hyped as fuck. And that's how
oh
I go.
yeah, man.
So,
Fuck that. That's reminded me of Brian I was talking about earlier, the weightlifter who competed at the Commonwealth for Scotland. Like, fucking legend of a lady, but so like quiet and yeah, really really nice little lady, right? Well, not so little. And she comes up to me like one time I'm training, like, Alex, like, do you mind if you just shout at me in like 5 minutes? And I'm like, yeah, I can do that, mate, no worries. And then like you turn around, she's got 140 on the bar and she's repping it for like 12.
yeah.
You're just like, oh shit, you just gotta get the fuck up. And she's there
Yeah.
just screaming. The whole gym just sort of stops and be like, this woman is a badass.
Yeah.
Fuck
Yeah.
me, man. It's fucking fun.
Yeah.
That stokes my fire. People just going nuts. Yeah,
Fuck.
for sure.
That's what it's about, man. Yeah.
What
We're
about
make noise. Sometimes we cut that noise off, right? So I always tell
yeah,
people, I'm like, you're put here to make noise. Fucking make it. So
fucking
yeah, it's
for
good.
sure, for sure, man. What about do you have a specific morning routine that you have to do every morning, or like some people don't necessarily have it in the morning, but they have an anchor that they have to do every day?
Yeah. My morning routine straight up through and through. Have a coffee and headspace, and then like lately, just with stuff that I've been doing in my life, going for a walk as well too. Like I've been going for a walk before I even do anything. So I get up, put my clothes on, go for a walk for 45 minutes, and yeah, like it's amazing. Like I just find it so nice. It gives me that time to reflect in the morning, to chill out. There's like no inputs coming in. It's just me, myself, my mind. Sometimes I'll put on a podcast or something, but yeah, it's just some me time. So
That's
those are my,
powerful, man.
yeah,
That's powerful.
yeah.
What about your least favorite exercise?
Oh, least favorite exercise. Holy Moses. Devil's press. Yeah, through and
Oh,
through. Yeah, devil's
fuck
press.
that shit.
Yeah, I'd say that's my least favorite through and through.
Light
So,
or heavy?
both. Like,
Yeah,
both, I'd say. But heavy would be like the grossest for sure.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
But then you got an excuse to like rest. You can
Yeah,
be like, Coach, it's
exactly.
heavy.
Yeah, it's that intelligent rest. You're like, no, I'm just breaking it up into fives, coach. Meanwhile,
Yeah,
you're like, fuck my life. What am I
dying.
doing? Yeah. Yeah.
What was that fucking workout where it was like, was it 21:59 of like fucking devil's press, and it was single arm too. So whenever you read single arm, you're like, well, you got no excuse to rest.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just there, just like thinking to myself, I was like, this is fucking miserable. Like, you are not enjoying yourself here. But I was fucking loving it. I love those times where you hate it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm one of those fucking weird athletes that like loves to hate shit.
Yeah. But
But
it's,
in the middle of it, I was like, fuck, you're dying. Like, you're fucking unfit as shit here, mate.
yeah.
Just dripping everywhere. Yeah, fuck devil's press. Um, Describe yourself in 5 words.
Oh, 5 words. Jesus. Now,
Jesus.
yeah. Straight up. So 5 words, I'd say leader, passionate, thinker, provoker, and I'm gonna pull provoker back because I need 2 words for this, potential seeker. So
Nice.
yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
Biggest life lesson. If you
Biggest
had
life.
to put the ribbon on one of them.
If I had to put the biggest life lesson on anything, my biggest life lesson would be through and through. I guess that you can have or be whatever you want to be in life. That you just have to take responsibility to make it happen. I think that'd be my biggest life lesson, because I think that when you take responsibility for yourself, like, so I guess maybe it's just even saying that, just take responsibility. It's this idea that like when you actually do that, you can have whatever you want, you can be whoever you want. no one's telling you that you have to be anything. It's on you. If you take responsibility for your life, man, like anything will come from it. So yeah, I think that'd be my biggest life lesson for sure.
For sure. Do you have a quote that you live by? So something that you always look back to, or a little mantra, or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah. I have quite a few. So like I've got like curiosity is the seed for commitment. That one I got from like Logan Gelbrick. I think it's super, super important and powerful. That strive for excellence in everything you do and have fun while doing so. Like that's something that sticks out for me. There's one, I forget like the whole, like I don't have the whole version of it because it's such a long one, or there's actually two. So like there's the man in their arena.
Yes, Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah, that one's absolutely huge to me. The other one, it's from Marianne Williamson. It's basically like the powerful beyond measure quote, where people talk about like who are you, like it's this idea that like we're all powerful beyond measure, and that if we aren't living up to our full potential, we're robbing the rest of the world and ourselves from that power. So
it's in Coach Carter, isn't it?
Yep, it sure is. And that's where I heard it the first time. And when I heard it, it like shook me to the core. And I found that quote. And I should know it word for word verbatim by now, but I don't. But it's like this one's.
I genuinely think that's one of the greatest speeches in movie history.
Yeah.
In fact, it probably is the greatest. Like it fucking puts the hairs up on my arms and a tear in my eye every single time. And I fucking watch that movie more times than I can remember.
Yeah. And then another one, I have heaps, but another one, this one was one that my dad turned me on to. It's called Acta Non Verba, which translates to deeds, not words. So that one was another one that put on to me, because so many of us talk and we don't take action. We're out there telling the world about what we're all going to do. You and I both know it. Like it goes back to that process, taking the action, taking those steps. That's what's going to lead you to where you need to be. So
for sure.
Yeah.
And last two, lad. Cool. I'm pretty sure I know this answer anyway. Like you said it straight at the beginning, but most influential person you've ever met.
Yeah. So outside of things like my dad and like family wise, I would say the most influential person that I've ever met, hands through, down and down without it. I'd say like, and I'm just like lots of my family are super influential and super inspirational. So like shout out to all them. But outside of family, I'd say Darren Ellis. He was like through and through actually for me. He was the one who like meeting him, like the guy. Yeah, he changed my life. He changed a lot of the ways that I view things. And he was one person who I'd say, like, I can say things like Brene Brown, but I haven't met her yet. So, like, I can say like, things like that. Whereas, like, the actual in person that's, like, changed my life and made me, like, look at all of these different things. That's Darren through and through. So
that's awesome, man. That's awesome. And then the most important, right? How'd you have your coffee?
Oh, black through and through, bro.
Oh, you'll never go back then?
No, never go back.
Fuck. Awesome. All right, man. If people wanted to hear more of you, or see more of you, or read more of you, where would you send them?
Two places. So Instagram's like pretty much where I do all my posting. So on Instagram, I'm at Kelsey_Rigler. And then for my company business that I do as well too, that's where I got Virtuous Approach. So I'd say at Virtuous Approach or at Kelsey Rigler. Those would be the big two. I obviously have a Facebook page that I post on and stuff like that, but my own personal Facebook page, I keep pretty quiet on there for some reason. So I just direct people to the gram. That's what I'd say.
I love the Virtuous page, man. Like it's less of just do this or fucking buy this or whatever. It's actually elaboration, a little bit more of a stoicism. Like it's a nice read, man. Like I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Even if it is just me and your mom reading it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, mate. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Much love. Appreciate that, man.
Thanks, man. I
Take
appreciate
it easy.
it.
I'll see you in a couple hours.
Yeah, sounds good, mate.
All right, peace.
Catch you. See you.